Hello YouTube. Bane666 here. I think it's safe to say that all my fellow Australians know the name, Martin Bryant, but just in case some of you outside of Australia are unfamiliar with the name, here is a recap.
But first, a scene of horror and carnage in the Tasmanian town of Port Arthur tonight, where as many as 25 people have been shot dead in Australia's worst massacre. At least 15 people are wounded, and the gunman, who's still holding police at bay, is thought to be holding at least one person hostage. Most of the victims are reported to be tourists visiting the historic penal colony at Port Arthur.
Helicopters began ferrying the injured to Hobart from Port Arthur after a gunman opened fire there this afternoon.
We've had a gunman run amok on the Port Arthur historic site. That's 85 k's from Hobart. It happened mid-afternoon. There are at least 12 confirmed dead, if not 22. There's a further 15 injured. At the moment we have a hostage-to-siege situation which we're attempting to contain and control.
I clearly remember having a conversation with a work colleague at the time. He said something like, "That dog doesn't deserve a trial. They should just take him out the back and shoot him in the head." I pointed out to him that everyone deserves a fair trial, even monsters like Martin Bryant. This got me an angry look, as if I was defending a mass murderer, which of course I wasn't. I was actually defending the legal system. Let me be clear here, I am not one of those conspiracy theorists who claim Bryant is innocent and was set up by the government, nor do I think mass murderers should get away with their crimes. But I am one of those people who thinks that everyone, and I do mean everyone, should get a fair trial in a court of law, and have adequate legal representation, even Bryant. I really do not care if there are 200 witnesses, each with a video camera recording the whole thing. It is up to a jury in a court of law to decide guilt or innocence. Not a public lynch mob driven by emotions. I can understand the emotion, I can understand the anger, but when deciding guilt or innocence, all that should matter is the evidence. That's not to say that the legal system is perfect, far from it. There are many cases where innocent people have been found guilty not based on evidence, but based on prejudice and emotion. Lindy Chamberlain is a good example of that from here in Australia. And a recent American study showed a large bias in the court system against males, in particular black males, who are 63% more likely to be convicted, or serve longer sentences than those who have the least bias against them, white females in other words. The family court system also needs a giant overhaul. But these are issues that need to be addressed and fixed, not a reason to abandon the court system entirely. And most importantly of all, the concept of innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. So let me be clear here. Your emotions about a case are not what's important, just the evidence. Your outrage about a case is not what's important, just the evidence. Your bias about a case is not what's important, just the evidence. Your assumptions about a case are not what's important, just the evidence. And that evidence needs to be presented in a court of law, with legal representation for both sides.
Brown University will allow a student who allegedly raped a victim on campus to return back to campus after they actually decided that he was guilty of these charges. Now, he was responsible for 4 counts of student misconduct, and his victim in this case is a student by the name of Lena Sklov. And here's exactly what he was found guilty of based on what the board found within the university. Now, I should note that this has also been reported to local police, and police are also handling the case. But in situations like this that take place on campus, the university also has to get involved.
Okay, the first thing I would like to point out here is that she did not report the rape to the police until nearly 7 months after it occurred. To quote from the Providence Journal, "There is a very short window in which we can obtain evidence of a sexual assault crime," Providence Police Major David A. Lopperton said Thursday, "and we need to be notified as soon as possible." The police did not receive a report about the alleged rape at Brown until nearly 7 months after it occurred, Lopperton said, so that any physical evidence may have been lost with time. Now I can understand why a rape victim may not report their rape to the police. Rape is a horrendous crime, with severe emotional trauma for the victim, and having to face police, and then court, would be additionally traumatic. Add to this the fact that every feminist under the sun is preaching that Nothing ever happens to rapists because we live in a rape culture, and it's easy to see why someone might try to avoid it all. But it is the police and the court system who should be handling cases like these, not faculty at a university. If the alleged rapist did commit the crime, then he should be in jail. It's that simple. And the university faculty has no authority to sentence him to one. The best they can do is suspend or expel him, and if he is in fact a rapist, then he will most likely commit rape someplace else. This is not a solution, it's just moving the problem elsewhere. I also have to ask, on what evidence did they find the alleged rapist guilty? Let's have a look at her story. Sklov allegedly was raped on August 2, 2013, at about 2:30 a.m., after leaving a party with a male student with whom she had a sexual relationship in the past, according to a report filed with the police in February. Both had been drinking, she said. When they walked outside, she told the police, the student pinned her against a telephone pole and choked her. He then walked her to his apartment, Sklov said Thursday, and again choked her and raped her. I was really in shock and in rough shape, Sklov said. 5 days after the alleged attack, Sklov said, she called the university's rape crisis hotline and she was instructed to immediately come to Brown Health Services, where she was tested for sexually transmitted diseases and given contraceptives. About a week or so later, Sklov said, she reported the incident to the Brown Office of Student Life. I had been counseled that this process would bring me justice and be part of my healing process, Sklov said in a videotape of her statement. But the process, she said, brought her neither justice nor healing. So based on her story we have no witnesses. I guess there could be photos of bruising from the alleged choking, but I cannot find any mention of them in any article. Besides, even if these photos did exist, they would only suggest the choking took place, but could not be used to prove rape. And I think it's safe to say that no rape kit exists, as she did not go to Brown Health Services until 5 days later. And if a rape kit did exist, what would Brown University faculty do with it? I somehow doubt they are equipped to test rape kits. So what evidence is there? As far as I can tell, the only evidence is the word of Lena Sklov. Now let me be very clear here, I do not know what happened on the night of the 2nd of August. I was not there, and neither were you. There are only two people who know what really happened that night. And they are both claiming different events took place. Which is why we must rely on evidence, and not just someone's claim. And that's the issue here. In American universities all that is needed is the preponderance of evidence, in other words, 50.01% of the evidence, in other words, one person's word against the other. Keep that in mind as we continue with the Young Turks. So, here's what they found him guilty of. Actions that result in or can be reasonably expected to result in physical harm to a person or persons. Sexual misconduct that involves non-consensual physical contact of a sexual nature, sexual misconduct that includes one or more of the following: penetration, violent physical force or injury, and finally illegal possession or use of drugs and or alcohol and or drug paraphernalia. Now, his victim alleges that he had choked her twice and raped her after a party that took place on campus. Now, even though they found him guilty of all these things, they decided to punish him by suspending him from campus for 1 year. After that happened, the victim appealed because she didn't agree. She thought that that wasn't enough time, especially because that meant that they would be going to school at the same time. And during the appeal, he actually remained on campus. The judge decided, no, 1 year suspension is enough, and effectively, he only got suspended for 1 full semester because he remained on campus during the appeal process.
I literally don't understand. Look, if it was charges, you got to give people benefit of the doubt, innocent until proven guilty, etc. Just because somebody says it's rape, you can't just absolutely trust that. The gravity of the crime does not mean the certainty of the offense,
exactly.
Right? So you can't just say, oh, murder, so it must have been that person, right? So, but in this case, they found him guilty. So, where's the question?
If this topic wasn't so serious, it would be funny how Cenk goes from claiming everyone should be considered innocent until proven guilty, to claiming the alleged rapist's guilt, in one breath. This should be really simple. If the accused is guilty, then only a court of law can give him a deserved sentence, and if the accused is innocent, then only a court of law gives him the opportunity to show his innocence. A crime like rape should never be handled internally by a university. If someone was stabbed, they would call the police, they would not handle it internally. If someone was shot, they would call the police, they would not handle it internally. If someone was murdered, they would call the police, they would not handle it internally. Then why is rape treated differently?
I'm confused. So Brown allows rapists back on campus? Isn't that crazy?
It is crazy. And I think the worst part about all of this is it's not an isolated case. Right now, a lot of the Ivy League schools are dealing with backlash, I should say, backlash, because they treat cases like this in a similar fashion. There'll be a victim, the victim will come forward, and the board will review the case and they will decide, hey, you know what, there was wrongdoing here. But usually the punishment does not fit the crime. The punishment is too light. And I'm really unsure as to why they do that, because it's not like Brown University has a shortage of students that want to go there.
And what exactly should they do? Build a prison on campus? A university is not a fucking legal authority. Why is that so hard to understand?
Think about that. They have limited space for students, right? And how many people want to go to this Ivy League school that deserve to go there? Here you are having a rapist or someone that you think raped one of your students.
I think this sums up my point nicely. Anna has clearly already made up her mind about the accused rapist's guilt. But her own words show that she acknowledges that his guilt has not been proven.
You're allowing him to come back on campus and basically saying that, hey, you know what, his behavior was bad, but it's not that bad for us to expel him. He shouldn't be there. If you think that he did this, he should not be there.
Yeah, and look, to be even clear, it's not that they think that he did it. They adjudicated that he did it.
Yeah.
They came to a conclusion that he raped that girl.
A conclusion based on what? There were no witnesses. There was no rape kit. The only evidence that seems to have been presented is her testimony. And once again, a university board is not a fucking court of law. They should not be handing down verdicts of rape cases. They are not equipped or trained to do so. Not to mention that both the accused and the alleged victim should have proper legal representation. This is not someone streaking during a football match. It's a fucking accusation of rape.
And she's still on campus. It's a no-brainer. I'm just confused as to why this would even be an issue, let alone the fact that it went the other way and he was allowed back on.
So part of the problem here, Cenk, is that we're getting university officials involved. University officials are not trained to be lawyers. They're not trained to be judges. They're not trained in the legal process, right? You bring actual legal professionals in the case, and then you either convict him or you find that he's innocent, right?
Amazing. This is exactly what I have been saying this entire video. The difference between myself and the Young Turks, though, is that, even when they admit the university board is inadequate, they still consider the accused guilty. Now let me stress once again, because I know that there are some people with selective hearing. I do not know if this guy is guilty or not. I am not advocating his innocence or guilt. I am advocating a fair and just trial, with proper punishment if he is found guilty. A university board ruling on rape cases is insane. It should not be their job to do so. And people referring to this guy as a rapist without a proper trial is unjust. Everyone should be considered innocent until proven guilty. It's that simple.
I hate that it has to go to a university board, and I understand why that happens. Usually when it comes to justice, it's not a short process. It takes a very long period of time. Right now, officials are still investigating it. They're trying to decide whether or not they should convict him based on these allegations, right?
Yes, based on allegations with no other evidence. This is because she waited almost 7 months to go to the police. If this guy actually is a rapist, if he actually did rape her, then he is most likely going to get away with it, and serve no jail time, because she went through the university and not the police. Once again, let me stress, I can understand someone's reluctance to go to the police. It would be unimaginably daunting, after just being raped. But you cannot expect to get a conviction if you don't. It really is that simple. Yes, it sucks, But that's reality.
And so in that time, what does the university do? Do they get rid of him? Do they keep him on campus while he's being investigated? They don't know. But nonetheless, it's really difficult for you to take a university board and say, all right, now you adjudicate. You decide whether or not this guy should be convicted of rape.
Well, this is an interesting question. If she had have gone to the police from the start, should he be suspended while the investigation takes place? On one hand, I want to say yes, he should be until the investigation is concluded, but on the other hand I want to say no, as he has yet to be charged, let alone convicted. It's a difficult situation, no matter how you look at it. Someone potentially is going to have their rights violated, and their life disrupted. But what Anna says here is very misleading. The university board was not going to suspend him while the police investigation took place, because she did not go to the police until months after the board had given their verdict. Anna paints what the university did as a stopgap solution until the police came to a conclusion, which is factually wrong and misleading. The university was not acting until the legal system took over, but acting as a legal system themselves, something they should have no authority to do.
That's a difficult situation to put them in, and also, since they're not legal professionals, I don't think that they're properly trained in what the appropriate punishment should be.
Look, there's no point in having the board decide that he did do the rape if you're not going to act based on it.
Exactly.
If you're going to say, okay, well, we decided that, so go ahead and take a semester off, that doesn't really do it, right? So, and let's say he didn't do it, right? Let's say for whatever crazy reason that he didn't do it. Okay, so yes, that's terrible for him as it takes time to go through this process, and then when he's vindicated, then he can come back on, right? But it's not at the beginning of the process. Mm-hmm. We've already got a board saying you did it, mm-hmm. right?
Once again, I have to ask, based on what evidence? Did he have legal representation? How long did he have to prepare his case? A university is not a court of law. It's that fucking simple.
So it should lean the other way. In the beginning, when you have no adjudication, it leans in the favor of the person who's been charged, right? But once you have some sort of declaration, it's...
But he has not been charged. The university found him guilty months before she even went to the police, so how could he be charged? The university has no legal authority to charge anyone. The Young Turks have really dropped the ball on this one. They are clearly letting emotion cloud their interpretation of the facts.
Crazy to let him back on campus.
Yeah.
Maybe he could win another day, but he can't win today.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy to know that he's returning to campus fall of 2014 while, you know, his victim is going to be there. And now she's saying, look, I cannot be on the same campus as him. I'm going to run into him. It's really uncomfortable. He literally choked me and raped me, and now I have to face him while I'm trying to get my education. So it sucks that the victim now has to leave the school and look for another place to get her education. That's the way the story turns out. And just one final point on this, you know, I want to give you guys another example of a college that dealt with a case similar in a very inappropriate way. From the 2008-2009 academic year to 2012-2013 at Harvard College, 5 students were required by the administrative board to withdraw from the undergraduate school due to sexual behavior.
Social behavior.
Social behavior, which is sexual, right? So that is just a few of the students that had allegations brought against them, and the board reviewed them, and they realized, hey, you know what, we have a bunch of students who are found guilty of doing these things, but for some reason we're only going to expel just a handful of them. So there's like this weird double standard, and no one can understand why it is. No one can understand the reasoning, probably because they're not legal professionals.
Due to social behavior which is sexual is a very broad statement and could mean a number of things. There have been numerous cases of children being accused of sexual assault by teachers, which are clearly nonsense. An example is the kindergarten child who hugged his teacher. If a kindergarten child hugging his teacher can be accused of sexual assault, something a child that age would not even understand, then social behavior which is sexual could literally mean anything. I think Anna might be implying that it means rape, which would be totally misleading.
Right. And there's also power dynamics. Mm-hmm. God knows who the parents of those kids are. I mean, if they're going to Ivy League schools, we have no idea, but their parents could be connected.
Yeah.
Look, I went to Ivy League schools and my parents were not connected, but it is certainly possible. And in my time there, did I run into some people who had connected parents? You betcha.
Yes, it is possible that the influential family of the accused could put pressure on the school, but to be fair, could not the influential family of an alleged victim do the same? This is just another example why these types of cases should not be handled by the university, but by the legal system. But Cenk is not the only one to think this way. Let's look at some of the comments in the comments section of the Young Turks video. The assumption here is his family must have money, and therefore, the privilege and influence to get whatever they want. This assumption comes from the fact that he attends an Ivy League school. But the alleged victim also attends the same school. Should they not assume a similar level of privilege and influence attributed to her? After all, the alleged rapist did not get off scot-free, and has since decided to leave the school permanently. He issued this statement through his lawyer. April 26, 2014. The following statement was released today by attorney David Duncan on behalf of Daniel Coppin. Daniel is deeply saddened by recent events at Brown University and has decided to withdraw his request to return to the university. Daniel maintains that his relationship with the fellow student involved in this matter was consensual. Despite disagreeing with the conclusions and the outcome of the disciplinary case brought against him last year, he accepted the penalties imposed on him and abided by the university requirements in every respect. This case has now become highly sensationalized. The university student newspaper and online media sites have repeated claims made about Daniel's conduct, allegations and rumors that have been asserted as fact. These claims are false. Daniel is grateful for the time he was able to spend at Brown and was fully prepared to return to school and to abide by any conditions placed on him by the university. Daniel does not intend to engage in a public debate on this issue. Wow, the stupid is strong in this one. He or she doesn't seem to understand that a university board cannot sentence someone to prison. I sometimes wonder how people this stupid can dress or feed themselves, let alone operate a computer. Okay, I don't automatically assume a woman is lying about rape because she is female, but I also don't automatically assume she is telling the truth because she is female either. Gender is irrelevant in my opinion. What I am interested in is the facts. I'm interested in what evidence is available, and how reliable it is. But statements like the one I just showed make me mad, and do you know why? Because they accept that males are rapists without question, yet are unwilling to accept the possibility that a female might lie. That's a quality for you folks, willing to see only the bad in males, and only the good in females. Well, I think it's safe to say that 100% of rapes are in fact rapes. I think she meant to say 99.4% of rape allegations are true. But I have to question where she got this figure from. The lowest statistic I've ever heard was 2% of rape allegations are proven false. Let me play devil's advocate for a moment, and suggest that this 2% figure is 100% correct. The Department of Justice states that there are on average 89,000 reported rapes in the USA each year. Using the 2% figure, that means that there are 1,780 proven false allegations a year. I think that almost 2,000 cases a year is enough for us to ask for evidence and a fair trial, as opposed to just taking the word of a female as infallible gospel. Let me be clear here, I am not advocating that all women are liars and should not be believed. I am advocating fair and just trials where a verdict is based on evidence. But I have to ask, is the 2% figure accurate? I can honestly say, not a chance. And here is why. The 2% figure is based on the number of cases that have been proven to be false. To assume that it's not higher than 2% is to assume that the court system is detecting 100% of all false allegations, something I think is impossible. And the fact that so many people have been proven innocent years, sometimes decades later, is proof of this. The following is a list of names who were falsely convicted of rape, and proven innocent through the Innocence Project, many, thanks to DNA testing. The real number of false rape allegations is unknown. I have heard of some studies that have put the number as high as 40%. I cannot honestly say that this figure is any more reliable than the 2% figure. And to be honest, for the sake of my argument in this video, it does not matter if the number is 2%, or 40% or anywhere in between. We all know people lie, and it is a fact that some people lie about rape. Therefore we should not jump to conclusions based on accusations or emotion, or anger, but rely on the evidence. It's really that simple. But why would someone lie about rape? There are cases of mistaken identity, technically not a lie, but the result is the same. Mental illness or attention-seeking, like this case from England. Elizabeth Jones, 22, admitted she lied about the latest rape allegation because she did not like the man she accused of attacking her, Southampton Crown Court was told. Her latest victim, who cannot be named for legal reasons, was arrested and questioned for 9 hours before being released without charge. After a judge jailed her for 16 months, it emerged today that she made her first complaint in 2004, aged just 13, before alleging other men had attacked her over the next 9 years. In 2009 she was given a 10-month detention and training order for a similar offense. Between 2005 and 2007 she had made 8 other allegations, which police investigated, but she was never charged. Admittedly, this is the worst case of its type I have heard of. There is of course one other reason why someone might make a false allegation. Revenge. We all accept that some males stalk and sometimes assault or even murder an ex after a breakup. The simple truth is that some women can be vengeful as well, and a false rape allegation is an effective way to destroy someone's life. For example, the story from Manchester. A judge has told a woman who falsely claimed she'd been raped by her boyfriend, his was a wicked, terrible thing to do. Sabrina Booth Guy, 22, of Lidford Street, Safford, told police that boyfriend Stephen Delaney had raped her in their home. But she refused to undergo a physical examination or a police interview, and after Mr. Delaney had spent 18 hours in custody she withdrew the allegation. She told officers she had made up the story to get her own back following an argument over her alleged infidelity on Facebook. The court was told Booth Guy and Mr. Delaney were still together despite the allegations, and in a letter to the judge Mr. Delaney said that he loved her and would continue to stand by her. And of course, sometimes these false allegations even lead to suicide. A woman drove a man to suicide by crying rape and forced a second innocent man to consider taking his life after falsely accusing him of a similar sex attack. Despite being exposed in court as a serial liar, legal restrictions mean the 21-year-old woman can never be identified. A jury took only 45 minutes to clear medical student Alumide Fadayomi, 27, of rape. But several jurors at Sheffield Crown Court broke down in tears when the judge revealed the victim had a history of crying rape. Judge Patrick Robert Shaw launched a stinging attack on the Crown Prosecution Service for making Mr. Fadayomi stand trial. He said, the evidence did not, and was never going to, prove rape. The prime overriding consideration in the CPS's decision had been merely that the complainant wished the case to go ahead. It was little short of a craven abdication of responsibility for making an independent and fair-minded assessment of the case. It is quite astonishing these decisions are made by those who simply do not have experience of what happens in Crown Court because they never come into Crown Court. Once again, let me be clear here, as I know some people will either put words in my mouth, or misrepresent what I am saying. I am not claiming all, or even most allegations are false. I am simply stating that there is clear evidence that some are. This cannot be denied. It's a fact. And because of this, we cannot just jump to conclusions based on our emotions or our outrage. We have to deal in the facts, we have to look at the evidence available in each case, and make our decisions based on that, not as a lynch mob, not in the star chamber of a university, but in a court of law, where both parties have legal representation. And you know what? Sometimes the guilty will go free, and sometimes the innocent will be found guilty, because the system is far from perfect. But it is the best we have got. And it's better than the justice of a lynch mob.